Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Experience the Power of Pandiculation. Release deeply held tension through lesser known somatics movements for reduced pain and embodied flow. My name is Stephen Dinan. I'm the founder and CEO of the Shift Network, and I'm really delighted to be with you here, getting to learn how to move our bodies in a way that just liberates it. More movement, more aliveness, more vitality. We're going to get to explore this with a leading pioneer in the field. Her name is Martha Peterson. She's the founder of Essential Somatics and author of Move Without Pain, and she's taught a number of programs for Shift over the years to great acclaim, and it is really just a lot of fun to be with as well. So you're in for a treat today, and if you want to go further with Martha, we're going to have a brand new program on the art and power of pandiculation that we'll share more about towards the end of the hour. So Martha, welcome to today's program.
Thank you so much. It is always wonderful to be back at the Shift Network.
Great. Well, I can feel myself starting to wanting to move because I can get stagnant already. Stagnant sitting in the seat here. But let's start with a little bit about your backstory. I know you have a fascinating backstory that led you into this work with somatics.
Yeah, I came to this work with a very long history of movement. I mean, I was a professional dancer. That was my first career in my 20s. And then I went into massage therapy. It was all about the body. So I learned a whole lot about the body, and I loved working with bodies. And then I went back to school and I got a dance education degree. So I started to teach creative movement to children and yet another population to whom I could, convey the beauty, the love of music. And I also was raised in a very, very physically active family. I mean, what we did for fun is go climb a mountain. So very, very active, right? Dance and hiking and all sorts of things. And yet by about the age of late 40s, I started to have a lot of pain. And oh, lest I forget, I also went to nursing school. I wanted to work with people, be a midwife, and yet again, more, what is it like? How do we show up in our lives, our bodies, etc. So, but yet by the end of the ends of my 40s, I started to have all these aches and pains, which for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why they were happening. I had studied every bodywork modality known to man, meditate, Reiki, the whole bit, and I love all of it. It has such value, and yet nothing was working to help me with my pain. And that really, really upset me because I could also feel how, at the same time as my body was just getting tighter and tighter and tighter, I could also see that my life was beginning to feel the same way. My body was reflecting what was going on in my life. I was impatient. I just felt like everything was kind of closing in on me. Whereas at the same time, my mother was hiking in the Himalayas. She was in her late 70s, and she was out there having a grand old time. And it really upset me. It freaked me out. It scared me. And I thought, well, if what is it that she knows that I don't know, and will I not get to do this fun stuff when I get older, right? So I really, really had hit a wall until my mother and my sister, who had been she's a former professional athlete. They both said, you got to check this cool stuff out. It's called somatics. It's science and it's movement. Right? Science and movement. And when I heard science and movement, I thought, okay, because, that's not something I've done before, is marry the two things together. And honestly, I listened to Thomas Hanna for several hours. I stood up and I went, whoa, not only did I felt my whole everything. It was like there was a transformative experience. I now realized that when my body, my brain and my body had kind of hit reset like a computer, updated my software, that not only did I feel different, when my kids came home from school, I probably was in a better mood. Probably everything flowed from there. But it was a pivotal, transformative experience, and I haven't looked back. And this is in spite of the fact that as I have gotten older, because I'm a lot older than I was in my late 40s, is from my dancing career and from all the activity, I developed severe osteoarthritis. And in spite of osteoarthritis, I was able to, prevent surgeries for a long time and to work with what was structurally in my body by addressing my function. So this work is such a compliment to everything that people do. And it was transformative to me. So that's why I just can't keep it a secret. I just want everybody to take my class so that they
Yeah.
experience this.
Well, your passion is very contagious, and I imagine your body is in a lot better shape than in your late 40s now in terms of pain, it sounds like.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well,
So,
let's dive into a little bit. I like this kind of marriage of science and somatics together. And so, what is it that set a little bit of the picture of this understanding of the body from this deeper somatic perspective that has emerged?
well, Thomas Hanna called us not bodies, he called us somas. A soma is a body as experienced from within. And thankfully in medical science, it's becoming much more commonplace for a doctor or a physician's assistant or nurse practitioner, whoever, to actually inquire about who you are, to ask you about the conditions of your life, and to take into account that the mental, the emotional, the societal, all of these things have an impact on our health. And this is called the biopsychosocial model of medicine. And it's a model that somatic education has taken into account for hundreds of years. Feldenkrais taught Hannah somatics, and Alexander, many wonderful disciplines. So this work in particular, Thomas Hanna really applied the understanding of neurophysiology that when you turn your attention inward, there are parts of your brain that switch on and light up, right? That you begin to really use different areas of your brain. It's neuroplasticity in motion. And so he in his work, he said, well, wait, I keep seeing these patterns showing up in people. They're walking in with the same, slouched on one side or slumped in the front or overarched in their back, really in high alert. So what is going on here? And his answers came through the study of neurophysiology. These are reflexes in our brain, and they're in our subcortex of our brain. And so he used, again, another reflex when, if you were watching this and you went, wow, is she ever boring? And you went, oh, no, sorry, I don't want to get you yawning, Stephen, but it's a reflex. To yawn is a reflex, and it's also a pandiculation. And pandiculation is when we feel tension rising in our bodies. This is all happening under your scope of awareness. And then our brain says, time to reduce the tension. So we contract inward and we slowly release outward and then let everything go. It's what cats and dogs and giraffes and elephants do, right? All vertebrate animals. So he said, wow, since that person is stuck in a reflex pattern because of their response to life, right? Remembering that everything in life is processed through your brain and your brain only, and it sits in your body as a response to stress, right? Is that if your brain is causing your muscles to stay tight, your brain must be re-educated. How do we re-educate your brain? By using pandiculation to go in and out of basic, gentle human movement patterns that your brain just forgot how to control. And that's why, as we get older, people go, oh, I'm just getting so stiff, I'm walking like a refrigerator. Well, that has nothing to do with your age. It has everything to do with the way that you've layered tension unconsciously. That's a different part of your brain. Unconsciously in your body, to the point where all you sense is that you have no longer have this freedom. So we teach you how to actively get your brain involved in sensing and moving in a very gentle, intentional, and voluntary way. And this is how we teach you how to reduce that tension, like lowering the volume of the radio or the thermostat when it gets too hot in your house, right? Lowering back down to set point. So then you can go back, you literally restore that sense of freedom and movement that you had in your much younger years. And lest I forget, and this concept of tension that builds up and builds up and builds up until all you know is you're tight and you have no idea what to do about it and you can't voluntarily let go of it. It's called sensory motor amnesia. And so that's what we address. Thomas Hanna said people get tight and start to develop, conditions like lower back pain and piriformis syndrome and jaw tension and tight shoulders, or all sorts of conditions and problems and complaints that are actually functional in nature, and they are examples of sensory motor amnesia. Your muscles just got really tight and now they're impinging on nerves. They've changed the way that your bones are moving, because muscles attach to bones and muscles move bones. So now you think that your problem is that you're falling apart structurally, when in fact the sensing and moving part of your brain up here has just gotten stuck like a hamster wheel. You're stuck on this hamster wheel of tension. So we teach you how to reduce, to get rid of that sensory motor amnesia by learning gentle somatic movements and applying pandiculation to those movements, so you can literally empty the cup of your stress and reset the way that you feel, the way that you move, even I'd say the way that you think, and it affects everything, because mental, emotional, and physical, the brain doesn't distinguish.
Hmm.
It's all somatic.
It's all somatic. Well, great overview of the sort of the core philosophy. And so you said that yawning is a form of pandiculation. Do you want to paint a little bit of the picture of the different kinds of pandiculation? So it's all around the sort of buildup of and then release of tension, it sounds like. And so what are the kind of
Yeah.
the natural versions of that?
Oh, natural versions of pandiculations. Well, think of lying in bed and, well, some people just throw back the covers and go, oh my God, I'm late. And and then, maybe get up and go, oh, my feet, they're tight. But a lot of people, especially kids, wake up and they go, "Mm," and they kind of draw their limbs inward, and maybe their hips come up and they pull everything inward, and then we just lengthen out from the center, right? We pull everything in towards the center, and then we release everything out in this yummy, beautifully timed expansion from our center. And then we go, oh, and then we let it go completely and go, and like, wow, that was really nice. And we might do it again, so that we literally activate our muscles and our nervous system. We mobilize ourselves for action. Now, yawn is a natural pandiculation. And sometimes, I mean, I've seen, especially kids, when they wiggle and squirm, a lot of times they're just, kind of, or even football players. I've seen football players do this. You kind of tighten back, pull their shoulders back, and then go, oh, they're literally pandiculating their back
Hmm.
muscles, right? When we think that we're wiggling and squirming, but we really tighten into something, and then we slowly release out of it, whether it's to the side. If you have a cramp, you're running and you go, oh, pull into that side and then slowly release out. That's a natural pandiculation. And but what most people do is that they stretch. So if their neck is tight, they go, oh, let me just stretch and see if I can pull my neck and make that feel better. Or let me see if I can pull my waist and make myself feel better. And yet that doesn't work, because it doesn't engage your brain,
Hmm. Why,
right?
why does a stretch not engage? So you're trying to kind of loosen something up manually. So it's like, oh,
Exactly.
but then your brain just goes kind of like unconscious because it's trying to do the opposite, or?
Well, no, that's a good guess though. What happens is that, let's say that side of your neck is tight, I used to teach this to a lot of people when I was a massage therapist. The side of their neck is tight. You could feel it, you could palpate it, and it's like ropes, right? So all you want to do is get rid of it. But if it's really tight, well, let's go back to the basics. The brain controls the muscles. There's this, the brain tells the muscles what to do. So there's something you were doing, maybe your posture at your desk, maybe you've been holding yourself like this because you're emotionally afraid or something, you're worrying or something. But whatever, for whatever reason, the brain has taught these muscles to be tight in response to stress, life, function, whatever. So the brain has said, okay, you're good, your muscles are tight, we're done. Let's go on and learn something else, because the brain can learn anything it wants. Once it learns to do something, it puts those muscles on cruise control, goes down to the
Hmm.
subcortex of your brain. So now you can wake up in the morning and those neck muscles are tight. So when you pull a muscle that is being held unconsciously at the level of your brain, brain, your subcortex, if when you pull it past the point that your brain can sense it and control it, what happens is a spinal cord reflex called the stretch reflex kicks in, lest you tear, really rupture your neck or you hurt yourself. So the stretch reflex, it's like that reflex if you're walking a dog and your dog sees a squirrel and goes like that. That's the reflex that keeps your shoulder from being pulled out of joint. It's a very useful reflex. So the best thing to do, I mean, it feels good for a while, but then you go, well, 10 minutes later, my neck is still tight because the muscles are going back to what they learned from the brain. So what do? You would, and if anybody out there wants to do it with me, you would instead tighten the muscles a little bit tighter, and you could even lift your shoulders so you go, ooh, now they're tight. And then you slowly release out of that and let it go completely. And you might find, oh, my muscles are a little softer. That's wild. Because when you tighten into a tight muscle, that sends your brain a very novel and strong message, feedback. We work on feedback, right? And then
Hmm.
when you slowly pay attention to what you're doing, this is the cortical part of your brain, you slowly release. Your brain is now taking back control of the muscle length, sensation, and function. And then when you let go completely, the brain has a second to integrate all this cool feedback. So it's a brain activity when you pandiculate.
Huh.
And it works so, you see, it works so much better and more efficiently than stretching. And I like to say, if animals don't stretch, they pandiculate. And they pandiculate all the time in order to constantly be ready to move, because
Huh.
movement is their survival, right? So when kids squirm around and kind of wiggle a little, that's actually a really good thing. They're reconnecting to their bodies when they do that.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And so, when you do this, is there any real difference between doing this sort of like unconscious yawn versus like really taking pandiculation on as a practice? Is it you're just emulating what you do and then it naturally sort of unfolds into the desired result?
I think that's a really that's an excellent that gets me curious. Is yes, there is a difference. You can yawn but still be really tight. When you start to take pandiculation on and remember, well, I didn't say it, so now I'll say it now, is that when you pandiculate, it is actually a systemic response. There's a systemic response in your body, right? Is it when you yawn, if you yawn, you'll notice that it's not just your jaw opening. A lot of things get involved in yawning. So a pandiculation not only addresses the muscles that are tight, it 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 brings in the synergistic muscles involved in that action. So if your shoulders are what's tight and you want to pandiculate, you'll notice that without trying, you'll notice that, your face goes forward a little bit. I can feel my belly tightening. Your chest collapses a little bit. Now I'm just focusing on my shoulder, but systemically, my brain wants to go into this pattern. And when you address not only the muscles that in question, but you address the muscles that are synergistic. So you address yourself as a system, as a whole. You will everything works more smoothly, right? Everything works more smoothly and is more effective. Which is why pandiculation, again, it's not like saying, okay, my triceps are tight, I'm gonna pull my triceps. If you pandiculated your triceps, you'd find that when you contract back, your back contracts, your rhomboids and your shoulders contract. A lot of things contract. And then when you release your rhomboids, all sorts of synergistic muscles release, and now you function more efficiently.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So, I'd love to have you reflect a little bit about how you sort of investigate into your soma, into sort of, because I think a lot of times we're not even aware of where the tension patterns is or where those kind of grooves are that are sort of like causing pain. They might be in some other part of our body than we're even feeling the pain. So just a little bit how you start to unravel the tension patterns with pandiculation.
Well, first of all, I mean, we first greet ourselves since every single day is new. Every time you lie down to do a practice or stand up to do a practice and take a second to just say, notice how you're standing on your feet. It's a new moment, right? And you may notice something new in that moment. So we start every practice, and I highly recommend it. People do this, as I said, even if they're standing, take a second and go, well, let me bring my attention to my feet or to my shoulders or to where I'm looking. You begin to notice things you would normally never notice. When you lie down, notice, in order to begin to recognize your patterns, notice how you're breathing, right? You put your hands on your body. Is your belly rising and falling, or do you think you're breathing, but actually you can't feel any movement whatsoever? Maybe you feel movement in one rib, maybe it's in the other rib, maybe it's up into your chest. Well, that will give you some really good information about, oh, if you're a chest breather, that must mean that you're more stuck in what we call the red light reflex of worry and fear. If you're, just belly breathing and always arching your back, you might be stuck more in this green light reflex of go, go, go. And if you find, well, I can only breathe out of one side of my rib cage, you might be stuck in a bit of a trauma reflex of tension on one side of your torso. So, we pay attention to breathing, pay attention to how your body is surrendering into the floor, from any differences in how your hand is lying on the floor, your shoulders, your pelvis, the weightedness. Feeling weight is a really interesting way to notice things. Do you feel lighter on one side of your body than the other? Do you feel arches in your arch in your back or space between your knees? This is a wonderful way to begin to notice things about yourself that you weren't aware of. You think, well, I just lie down in bed. I'm not aware of what's going on. But when you begin to play with that, always with no judgment, always with curiosity, right? If you're seeking to improve something, you cannot be judging yourself at the same time. It's highly non-productive. You might notice this cool stuff like, wow, I always lie down on my shoulder, one shoulder's up and one shoulder's down. I wonder what's going on there. Oh, that might have been when I, tore my rotator cuff. And you begin, the more you notice your habits, the more awareness might come up to you of, oh yeah, I forgot about that thing that happened to me, or that stressful situation that may be showing up in my body. That's so cool. So we always start with a soma scan and just scanning how your body is lying on the floor or sitting in the chair or standing up. But then we begin to introduce pandiculation through very gentle movement patterns that really start in human developmental movement. As babies, we, came out of the womb all curled forward. And at a certain point, our brains woke up and started, this reflex of contracting the back took hold. So we addressed the back and the front, right? So that you can begin to restore this coordination between the back and the front and your spine, which is so important, right? Our spine is just that column that supports us. And then we'll go on to the sides of the body, right? Once you can move your spine more easily and you can find more balance on your feet, then we can start to play just like a baby would start to wiggle around and wonder what to do with their arms and legs. Then once you can feel the sides of your body and you restore this coordination between the sides of your body, front, back, and sides now you're ready to start playing with pelvis and legs and shoulders and arms and begin to bring that periphery into the center. And then you think of kids when they stand up and they're a little unsteady and they go forward like Frankenstein, but eventually they start to refine and revise based on what they sensed and learned when they were, crawling around on the floor. So that's the way, and all of this is through pandiculation
Hmm.
to reconnect areas of the body like shoulders and pelvis that may not be as connected as you think they are, and then to reduce that tension, in the muscles so that you actually can move with more freedom, right?
Fascinating. Well, I know you want to also give us a sample of how this works, and so let's
Yes.
take some time now to engage a practice that we can all do with you.
Wonderful. So one of the most when we address sensory motor amnesia, we understand that sensory motor amnesia takes hold in the center of our bodies, right? Whether it's an accident, an injury, or a surgery, the residue of tension, it is right here, right? From our head down to our pelvis, our armpits down to our pelvis, the base of our skull down to our tailbone, right? So this is what we call the center of the body. Some people refer to it as the core. So anyway, and so even if you broke your ankle and you limped around, you will find once your ankle is healed, you may find that there's an imbalance in your center. The tension is still there. Okay, and so we address issues from the center out to the periphery, arms and hands and legs and feet. However, if there's tension in the center, there will be tension in the periphery, guaranteed. If there's tension in the periphery, for whatever reason, maybe too much typing or that broken ankle, you'll find that there's tension in the center. You're all connected, center to periphery, periphery to center. Okay, think of that Leonardo da Vinci Vitruvian Man. Okay, that's who we are. So I'd like you to do something interesting. I'd like you to and don't cause any pain. I'd like you to make two fists. Make two fists as if you're holding a really heavy hammer. Okay, hold your fists tightly, and you can put your arms down alongside your body, but continue to hold your fists, not so strongly that you cause any pain. But now begin to notice how your arms are tightening as well. Your forearms are probably getting a little tired by now. You may feel your biceps and triceps are tight. Okay, now really tighten those fists, and let's do something interesting. I'd like you to slowly shrug your shoulders up. Now, only shrug them up as far as you can go with those tight fists and tight arms, right? Only as far as you can go. And very slowly release. You're doing a pandiculation, right? Keep those fists tight. And now, what if you shrugged your shoulders forward? How far would you go with those tight fists and now becoming tight arms? And slowly release. And hang on one second, one more thing before I let you release your fists. Go back. Take a big belly breath. Can you take a big belly breath? And slowly come back. Release it, release it, release it. What kind of movement was there? I'm guessing probably not a lot. So now slowly let go of your fists and notice the sensation that rushes into your fists, up to your arms. You may really want to take a deep breath. I know I do. because I noticed that not just my fists were tightening, my rib cage, my belly, everything was tightening. So now let's do the same thing, but let your arms go, let your hands go, and let's just go up. Shrug your shoulders up and notice, can you go farther with your shoulders? Slowly let them come down as if you're lowering, you're coming down in the elevator to the lobby. And this time, roll your shoulders forward. Let your arms be really relaxed. Let your fists, your fingers really relaxed. And notice, can you go farther? Slowly come away. And let's go backwards. Can you open your chest and really draw your shoulders back towards your spine? Let those fingers and fists and forearms be soft. And slowly, slowly let it go. Nice. It's hard to move the shoulders when your fists and forearms are tight, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's do something interesting. Let's bring our arms in a different position. This is emulating something, a little interesting variation for the shoulders I'm going to teach in my course. So I'd like you to pull your shoulders back towards your spine as if your mother said, for Pete's sake, stand up straight, right? So you're really pulled back, okay? Now, keep those shoulders tight and go ahead and try to, and reach your fingers towards the screen, but keep those shoulders tight. Slowly come back. Now, reach the other one forward, but keep those shoulders tight. Don't move your shoulders. And notice what you're using in the rest of your body to try to do that movement. Now just let it go. Let it go. What were you using to try to reach? I was using my lower back, trying to arch my back to reach. Now let
You feel kind of like a robot trying to.
No, exactly, right? And people wonder why they have shoulder pain, right? So now bring your arms back out in front of you. And imagine you're a ragdoll. Let your back go. Let your shoulders blades go. Let them be like big, dinner plates on your back. Now reach forward and let your shoulder come forward. Let your head move. Notice how much easier it is to move, how much farther you can practically touch the screen if you let your shoulders go. And do it again. Let your back go. Even breathe under your armpit. And notice how much easier it is to reach. If you had to reach for something on your desk, if you reach like this, you might hurt yourself. But if you reach with your whole body, it's a different set of circumstances, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Tension in the center is going to create tension in the periphery. Tension in the periphery is going to create tension in the shoulders. In the center, right? So let's do something standing up and walking. Now this is really fun. I'd like you to please just walk around your space, okay? And just feel your walk and notice your arms and your legs. Do you feel comfortable walking? Do you feel like a robot? Do you feel like, ooh, you can swoosh your pelvis? And just notice, take notice of your walk. How do you walk? What does it sound like to walk? And now, I'd like you to keep walking, but I want you to pull your arms close to your torso and clench your fists. Keep walking. And notice how that changes your walk. Right? Are you now maybe waddling a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And how are you breathing, by the way? When you pull your arms next to you? Have you stopped breathing?
Mm-hmm.
Fully? Yeah, me too. And slowly release and keep walking and notice, whoa, my goodness, it's like you let the floodgates open. Right? Everything is moving better. Now, here's something I see a lot of people doing. I used to do it for decades. Keep walking, but now suck your belly in. Suck your belly in. You want to look like you could get on the beach in a bikini. Suck that belly in. Keep tight. Keep walking. How does sucking your belly in not only change your walk, but change the way that you breathe? What do your shoulders do? Keep your belly sucked in. What changes? And is it comfortable? Do you feel balanced? Does it feel efficient? Now let your belly go and now keep walking. And which way could you imagine taking a 5-mile walk in the woods? One where you're sucking your belly in or holding your arms tightly to your torso, or in one in which your arms are relaxed, your belly is soft. Which one would get you there to the end?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, clearly it's like when there's tension patterns anywhere in your body, it manifests throughout the rest of your system too, is really illuminating. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
and I was thinking, I was also thinking thank goodness we're no longer in the age of most people wearing lots of, crazy high heels. But when I was in my 20s and 30s, we wore heels all the time, every single solitary day. Think of that tension in your feet and your toes, how that affects the center of your body.
mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, so and then you compound that with like the habit patterns of modern life, hunched over keyboards or driving cars or sitting at desks, and so there's just a certain amount of these tension patterns that go with our modern human
Yeah,
existence now.
yeah. And if you're scrolling through the headlines, and you might live in a gorgeous house, you're retired, you have a wonderful relationship, you've got plenty of money, and you get to go on vacation, but there's all sorts of unfortunate things happening in the world, and you just it pulls you in psychologically and emotionally. Even if things are going well in your life out there, when emotionally or psychologically you're stressed or you're worried about a loved one or you're worried about the state of the world, it's going to show up in your body because
Hmm.
it's all somatic. And
Hmm.
it's really about learning how to this work is really, yes, about learning how to reduce sensory motor amnesia and tension in your body so you can move well, but it's also about stress resilience and being able to self-regulate. That stress is not going to go away. Things in the world are not going to, go away. There's always going to be something that we could get upset about, or anxious about. It's how do you notice how you react and become stuck in the stress of your life, mental, emotional, physical, and then what can you do about it in the moment so that you don't move into the future as a victim of your stress, right? It gives you back these tools to get into the driver's seat of your life on all levels, I would say.
Hmm. Great stuff. I
Yeah.
want to ask you a little bit about sort of like the unwinding of tension patterns, and sort of you talked a little bit about sort of like the different areas of your body. Is there a primary pattern you want to kind of start from the releasing tension patterns through the pandiculation and then kind of work outward to, whether it might be soreness or tension in your hands from too much keyboard time, or do you kind of want to, is there like a general arc that you want to follow?
Well, I think that people want sensible, they want guideposts, they want guidelines and things that make sense. Like, how do I do this for myself? Right? I don't want to have too many things thrown at me or too many concepts or principles, but how do I do this for myself? And what we find, and this is Thomas Hanna found, is that because there are three stress reflexes that all vertebrate animals get stuck in, right? There's the green light, go, go, go. You're going to get things done. Your back is always contracting. You think of maybe athletes or fitness trainers or busy moms or dads, for Pete's sake. Teachers standing on their feet, nurses, always go, 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 go. And the back gets really, really tight. The opposite reflex, the red light reflex, is that of primal protection. It's really useful, right? We've got to protect ourselves, hunker down when we're stressed emotionally or psychologically, but it's also now functional with devices, technological devices. And because we move forward towards life, we are compelled to grow up towards life and move forward. It's most useful to address the front and the back of the body, even if maybe it's the side of the body that's bothering you. Remember, when learning something new, think of piano. I played piano for a long time as a kid. You don't just start playing Tchaikovsky or Rachmaninoff. You got to learn the basics, learn the alphabet. So one thing at a time. And once you learn why it's best to go slowly and learn one thing at a time, then you have all this facility to learn more complex things. So we always start with the front and the back of the body because we rise up, we move forward, and so the back of our body is always so tight, and then the front co-contracts. Then we'll move on to the sides, right? The trauma reflex I referred to. And that's, in response to accidents or not emotional trauma, but accidents or injuries or a one-sided surgery or slip and fall or functional things like holding babies on hips or playing racket sports. Then we'll address the sides because once the back and the front are no longer having a battle of wills with each other, now the sides, you can start to release the sides so that now everything, that beautiful spine, all these muscles that attach into the spine can move with more freedom. Rotation. That's all about walking, right? Which is the most important movement we ever want to maintain as we move forward as we age. So yeah, we start with the front and the back, what we call the green light and the red light reflexes, and then we build and bring in the trauma reflex about the
Wonderful.
sides.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Anything else you want to share about just some of the universal stress reflexes that humans have that can keep us stuck in the patterns of contraction?
Well, our breathing and actually our learned ways of moving. I think of as a dancer, I was taught, here's how you should breathe, here's how you should move. Don't move your pelvis. You shouldn't ever move your pelvis when you walk. Well, that's actually can create a lot of pain, SI joint pain, sciatica pain, inefficient gait, inefficient running, I think the being taught you have to breathe from your belly. You can't breathe from your rib cage or we learn ways of doing things that become stuck patterns that are not necessarily a reflex, but they're habits that are you can do, let's say in yoga you can learn all sorts of wonderful yogic breathing. But let's just say you came into your yoga teacher training or your yoga class, but you were really stressed because your mom is really sick, and now you're stuck with sensory motor amnesia and you're being taught to breathe a certain way, right? First release that sensory motor amnesia, and now let's play with different ways of breathing. But really the three reflexes that we address are the front, the back, and the sides. And there's usually a combination thereof for most people. And well, one of them actually, we call it, Thomas Hanna called it the dark vice. Now, I thought that was a little harsh. We call it the bracing reflex. And
Mhm.
that's when, I bet a lot of people listening can relate to this, where it feels like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're not sure if it's your back or if it's your front because everything is tight. You just feel as if you have a corset on and you can't extend your spine, you can't curl your spine forward, you can't bend to the side. Everything is tight. He called that the dark vice, which means that you've got more than one reflex going on. You've got all three at the same time. And that's very common these days. So we teach you how to, where would you start when that's happening?
Mm. Well, dark vice adds a little bit of drama to the whole
I
process
know, I know. I like, oh, it's a little scary. So I'd say bracing, like you brace to pick up you're a power lifter and you're bracing your abdominals to pick up a heavy weight. I prefer that one.
So I'd love for you to share just a little bit about what you've seen when people really embrace pandiculation as a practice. There's the kind of the shorter term freeing up tension patterns. How does this actually just, give you a whole different orientation to life over time?
Well, I have, oh, geez. I mean, I have one woman who had, I will never forget her as long as I live. In fact, she comes back to a retreat that I teach every year in Mexico. She's now in her mid 80s. And when she came to me, it was probably 7 or 8 years ago, and she came to a weekend workshop. She was she has scoliosis and she was bent over to one side. She had a lot of pain, and I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? We have two days and I have 25 people in the class. So anyway, she lay down and I just said, please be mindful of your comfort level. Do what you can do. Don't do what you can't do. You got to be comfortable. And so I taught the workshop. At the end, there's a lot she couldn't do, a lot she couldn't do. And but she was okay about that. When she shared her biggest takeaway, there wasn't a dry eye in the room because what she said was, I learned that I have hope that there is hope for me, but that I'm the one who created the hope from the inside out.
Mm.
And it makes me tear up just to say that, is that she realized that nobody's going to fix her, but by turning that attention inward, even though she couldn't do half of the things that I was guiding people to do, she created this sense of newness and awareness. And every time she comes to a retreat, she says, this work is so valuable. There's always something new. I get to learn about myself and about what's possible. And I've heard this so many times, you know. I also had, somebody who said, I came for sciatica. She brought her husband with her, and I came for sciatica, now my sciatica's gone. But the husband turned and he goes, but she's a nicer person. Isn't that funny? She's a much nicer person to be with. And she said, I know that sounds harsh, but he's right. That as her
Hey, pain
pain,
does not bring out the best in people.
no, pain will change who you are. And so I'm always inspired by, I hear it all the time. I realize that I do too much in my life. I can I can gain so much more by doing so much less, be kinder to myself. So through these, movements that people come really in order to reconnect to themselves because maybe they have unresolved trauma or they're just going, and all they feel is tension. They come kind of in the door of the body, but they walk out with what I feel is the deeper message is that everything in life, your whole history shows up in your body.
Hmm.
And the history is gone. It's behind you. It's what are you going to do with what's right here in front of your face, in your body, engage with it with curiosity, compassion, love, and it's amazing what will happen. I'm a perfect example of it. My mother as well, she's 97 and a half, and she still walks up and down the stairs in her house to go to up to her bedroom. And she does her as much somatic movement as she can on a daily basis. She does it seated now rather than on the floor. And so it's many people walk away with a new understanding of who they would like to be by reducing all this tension. Some people walk away going, I'm finally out of pain, and now I can go on that European trip.
Hmm.
I can do whatever I want. A lot of people say, I want to become a teacher now. I want to teach it to everybody I know, because it's missing link information
Mhm.
about how the way in which we live our lives, the way that we think, the way that we feel about ourselves has a profound impact on our health. And yet we can learn how to reset that and then live the kind of life that we want to live, move the way we want to move, and really discern, I think, having been in the movement profession for such a long time, discern what is really useful for you as opposed to what is trendy for everybody else, right?
Hmm.
What do you want to do? How do you like to move? What's comfortable for you, right? What's the kind of life you want to lead? And when you bring your awareness inside as opposed to being told from the outside what's wrong with you, what you should be doing, it's a profound experience, right?
Hmm.
It's restoring agency, I think. And it's how we learned how to understand ourselves as children. We sensed we moved, we sensed we moved, we looked at everybody else, reactions and parental support or not, and so life is all about sensing and moving. And if we want to learn how to be different with ourselves, do something different, do something new, we've got to learn it through sensory motor training
Hmm.
because that's how our brain works.
Well, this is so grounded in the science and somatics and a deeper just call into our freedom within our bodies and really enjoying and savoring this beautiful blessing that we've been given. So I want to spend some time now talking more explicitly about your upcoming course, which is a really beautiful opportunity to dive into this as a practice and learn from one of the best in the world. So we're really blessed that we're going to have this upcoming course with Martha. It's called The Art and Power of Pandiculation. Awaken your body's natural healing, ease, and intelligence through lesser known hanasomatic movements. You can find it at the URL powerofpandiculation.com, powerofpandiculation.com. And it's really just going to take you on a journey into yourself, into your freedom, into your liberation from old habit patterns, and into a new kind of embodiment that is more delightful in different ways. So I would love, Martha, for you to share about some of your intentions for what people will come away with, and then we'll go through the modules and give them a preview of what's coming.
Wow, what I wish for those coming to this course is that they walk away with a renewed connection to themselves and having learned something about themselves that they didn't know was there. A real sense of confidence in their own movement and in their own ability to figure things out for themselves, right? And technically, if they walk away with the ability to do new things they hadn't done, or do things that they hadn't done for a long time, that's great too. Like learning how to get up off the floor in a really, really fun and easy way. So learning how to roll over, right? Yeah, I hope that people walk away with a real sense of renewed connection, renewed awareness, and an understanding that from that awareness and that sensation and moving can come more self-actualization.
Hmm, beautiful. So, module one is called Connect Your Head, Neck, and Center to relieve pain and tension, enjoy more freedom of movement and mobility.
Mhm. Well, we start off, as I said, we start off right at the basics and beginning to connect the movement of your head to the movement of your spine, to really, in many different ways, you know, your head and your tail to your spine in some fun and illuminating ways in order to address the movement of the spine, free the movement of the spine to prepare for, you know, future modules. A lot of people don't realize that if they have issues with their neck, it's because there's issues with their center and their all the muscles of the center, center to periphery, periphery to center. So we'll have a fun time exploring that in several different ways.
Module two, find your center of gravity to release tense muscles.
Yes, so the center of of gravity is really it's your hara, right? It's right below the navel. And when we are stressed psychologically or emotionally, we often lose our center. And that is based in the habituation of this red light reflex of worry, fear, and anxiety. And when that center, when I say center, I mean from your breastbone down to your pubic bone, when that becomes tight and habituated, sensory motor amnesia, well, you've lost your center. Not only functionally, it's hard, you could fall over more easily when you're hunched over, but you also lose it emotionally, psychologically. You're not breathing. Your heart isn't getting oxygenated. Your brain isn't getting oxygenated. So my contention is when you free up that reflex and you really understand how the periphery is connected to the center, you will be more centered yourself.
Module three, own your power and stand tall by learning to relax the muscles that move you forward with guest teacher Karen Statner.
Yes. Well, this is all about that green light reflex, that go, 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 the hills are alive with the sound of music reflex. You're just joyful, right? And it moves you forward. So Karen, who is a brilliant teacher, she's a member of the Essential Somatics faculty. She is going to guest teach for me. She will also be the demo for our modules. And she will be teaching this class and guiding you through a lovely, gentle experience of connecting the back muscles, again, to the periphery, from your fingertips through your back all the way down to your toes, so that you have some movements that when your back gets really tight at the end of the day, you can switch your back muscles off when they're no longer needed for an action, right? And then you're going to learn how to playfully allow that, let go of your back, let go of your waist so that you can roll over in a way that maybe you haven't rolled over in a while.
Hmm. Module 4, balance your body and balance your life.
Oh, yes. So, I don't know about you guys, but I've had a lot of accidents and injuries in my days as a dancer and as a mom and as an active person. So, if you know that there's one side of your body you either can't feel, it's out of your control, or your gait is off, you can look in the mirror and you can see look that like you're two different people. When you're when both sides of your body are out of sync with each other, that's going to affect every single solitary movement you do. It's going to affect your balance. So we'll play with the movement of the shoulder blades, the rib cage, and the pelvis so that you can move one side of your body as well as the other side of your body. And we'll bring that all together with lovely twisting movements.
Module 5, coordinate the two sides of your brain with the two sides of your body for improved balance and decreased pain.
Yes. So this module is all about cross patterning. And a lot of times when I take people through a walking scan and I ask them to notice the relationship between one shoulder and the opposite hip, they ask me, is there supposed to be something happening? And I say, yes, because we are supposed to gently rotate around our spine when we walk. But most people walk like, John Wayne or a refrigerator, right? They don't move. They don't move their pelvis or their shoulders. And that's going to get in the way of your balance. So we're going to play with a wonderful movement sequence I just love. That's a little reminiscent of this experience we did with reaching with your arms. But we're going to begin to bring it into the diagonal, right? First we repattern the sides, and now we're going to start talking about the diagonal so that when you get to walking, you are more coordinated, walking forwards, walking backwards.
Module 6, freeing your pelvis, hips, knees, and feet to easily stand up from the floor.
So now, once you've gotten your diagonals talking to each other, we're going to go back to the torso and we're going to bring it into, or the sides of your body. And we're going to bring it down into your pelvis, your knees, and your feet. And play with a sequence that is rarely taught, but it's one of my very favorites that Thomas Hanna ever taught. And it teaches you to really become aware of the connection of your feet to your knees, to your hips, to your waist, to your shoulders, up to your head. So we're going to do a fair amount of this on your hands and knees. So you'll, get pillows and whatnot so you're comfortable. But we're going to culminate that class with learning how to stand up from that hands and knees position through a really fun movement pattern that's you're going to surprise yourself.
And finally, Module 7, cultivate versatility in your feet to develop power in your walk.
Yes. So that last module is all about walking. But we're going to play with not just about walking, but your feet, that most people are very unaware of how their feet are, how their feet greet the ground, and how the feet give information to the center about what's going on in the center, and how tension in the center is going to change the way that your feet move. We want sensory feedback into our feet. We don't want muddiness, we want clarity. And when we have clarity in our feet, it's going to affect everything. So we're going to learn how to play with our feet and connect our feet to our knees, to our pelvis, to our center, and then really dive into a more extended exploration of walking movements, hips in the circle, hips on horizontal, vertical, all manner of ways, so that when you stand up and start to integrate with fun standing explorations, which you can take out into the world, do anywhere you want, right? To be playful in standing, everything's going to land.
Well, what a great program. And again, it's laid out in more detail at powerofpandiculation.com. Share a few more things about it. So you get not only the 7 90-minute sessions with Martha and also her guest faculty there, Karen, and you're going to also get recordings of every session, both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight. There are weekly practices you can do at home, which are really essential for the learning to really take root in your body and your being. There's a community to support you and deepen your experience. And on the page, you'll see a number of extra bonuses that have been added to enhance your journey. There's a PDF from Martha called Daily Somatic Awareness Practices.
Hmm.
You want to share anything about those?
Well, there are two practices um, that I find really useful to start to do in your life, so that you can, it's not movements necessarily, but concepts to apply to you, to you in the way that you are during the day. That when you bring in another aspect of awareness, how are you responding emotionally? How does that sit in your body? Or what is the, what is your habit when you start the day, in the middle of the day, at the end of the day? What are your habits, and how is that affecting your body? And where do those habits even come from? So just diving into different ideas about what habits are.
Hmm. That's
Yeah,
just one
challenging
bonus.
you.
That's
Yeah,
just
challenging
one.
you a little bit.
Yeah, that's just one bonus, and that's a great one. There's also a second bonus called Ballet Bar. It's a video teaching and practice. And then there's one special bonus you get if you sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time. This is our way to encourage you to tune in now, read through the page at powerofpendiculation.com. And if you choose to move forward, you're going to get a video practice from Martha called the standing hamstring release. Obviously, a lot of people carry tension in their hamstrings. You want to share more about that practice that they get today?
Yes, that is, I can't count the emails that I have gotten from people saying, could you please, my hamstrings are so tight, what do I do? Well, in this video, it is a great demonstration of how the hamstrings do not work in isolation. The hamstrings are attached to the back of your body. So when you address the back of your body, you can also then more easily release your hamstrings. So I show you how to do that. You could do it. You could be in the middle of a trail run. You could be in standing in line at the airport. You can use this release anywhere because it's basic, it's simple, and it addresses not only tight backs and buttocks, but tight hamstrings. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's a great extra reason to sign up today. So again, that's at powerofpendiculation.com, and that's the special bonus of the standing hamstring release. It's available today. So we've kept the investment for this program very accessible. It's just three payments of $128, or you can save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start September 30th and run Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. There's some beautiful testimonials on the page from graduates of Martha's previous courses at the Shift Network. She obviously loves her work. She's very skilled. She's very attuned with participants, and those practices are really life-changing. So you'll see that in the quotes, and we can assure you that that's what you'll get. So again, it's all at powerofpendiculation.com, powerofpendiculation.com, and you get that special bonus on the hamstrings called standing hamstring release when you sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time. So Martha, another joyful exploration with you today. Thank you so much for your wisdom and really empowering perspective on how we can free our bodies and enjoy our bodies more, and really experience some of this liberation that comes from pendiculation. So, anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering doing the full course with you?
Well, I just want to encourage people that if if you care about being able to move and having freedom, you can learn to do things differently. You can restore the ability to move. That within you, within your beautiful brain, is an amazing capacity. You just need to understand what to look for, how to go about it, and be patient and compassionate with yourself as you practice what I will be teaching in this course. So I beseech you to care as much about yourself as anybody else does, because as Thomas Hanna said, nobody in the world is going to care as much about you as you do.
Hmm.
So I'm here to, as a witness, as a teacher, to guide you on that somatic journey, which never ends. It opens up a world that is explosively interesting. So I hope you'll come. I
Hmm.
really hope to meet you there.
Oh, beautiful enthusiasm you have and such dedication. So thank you, Martha, and thank you all for joining here today. And again, if you'd like to go further into the power of pandiculation, the art and power of pandiculation course, you can do so at powerpandiculation.com, and you'll get that special bonus on the hamstring release when you sign up by midnight tonight. So many blessings. Thank you, Steve.
Yes, it was wonderful as always. Thank you, Stephen.